Welcome. We're gonna give it a few minutes for some people to hop in before we get started. Welcome as you come in. Say what's up. Say hello. Let's see who's joining the conversation tonight. Make sure I can see your accounts. Come on in and join. Just say hello or what's up or something so I can know who's joining and who's watching before we jump into it. Give it a few more seconds. See who's joining us tonight. We're just I'm gonna get started because I know as we start the conversation, as we have the conversation, people will jump in. I want to welcome everyone that's on and everybody that's going to join. This is the Sexual Miseducation of Black Men. Once again, as you know, we come every Tuesday, or we try to come every Tuesday and have these conversations. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you got work and families and cooking dinner and probably doing homework. So I definitely wanted to show my appreciation that you take the time out to join our conversation and talk. So first, let me give you a quick intro about what sexual miseducation of Black men is all about. We basically have 4 goals. One of the goals is to help explore and help examine some of the sexual miseducation, some of the unhealthy habits and lessons that we've learned as Black men when it comes to sex. And we talk about how it affects us mentally, how it affects us relationally, how it affects the way we view women, how it affects the way we view ourselves as men, and how it affects the way we view relationships. Another goal is definitely to teach the next generation of men real ways of measuring manhood, help them to understand that manhood is not measured by the amount of women you sleep in or how well you perform in bed, but showing them the real virtues and the real characteristics that it takes to measure what manhood is. Another goal for the sexual miseducation of Black men is to help the entire community to raise our young prince into that next level of king, I should say, by educating them and showing them leadership skills and mentoring and things of that nature. And finally, one of the biggest purpose of the sexual miseducation of Black men is to help Black men to overcome one of the biggest temptations or biggest obstacles that a lot of us has faced in our lives. And that's just, unattached, unadulterated temptation of sex. I would say that it's probably have derailed a lot of Black men off of their track and off of their goals. So that's basically the 4 goals of these conversations that we have and the work that I also do in the community. So if you've been on other parts or if you joined other episodes of the sexual miseducation of Black men, you've seen that we've had a variety of conversations. We've talked about um, pornography, the way it affects us. We've talked about the message in the imagery and the music that we listen to, and the way it affects the our view on sex. We spoke about the pressures that we experience growing up having sex, and how that affects the way we view relationships and women and things of that nature. Well, tonight we're talking about something a little bit different. As you know, it's February. It's Black History Month. So I wanted to the entire month I wanted to explore some of the historical impacts and historical influences that have had on Black men when it comes to sex. The history is thick. So we're starting off tonight by talking about the slavery and sex, or sex slavery, I should say, is the title of tonight's show. So, as always, I'm not here by myself. I always have some guests that comes with a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight, a lot of opinions, and tonight is no different. So I'm going to add them to the stream and have them introduce themselves, and we're going to jump right into the conversation. Let's see. Hello, how y'all doing?
Hey,
Everybody's on?
We on.
Okay. So let's go around and introduce yourselves real quickly. Your name, tell us what you do. I know some of you guys have some big things going on. And tell people where they can find you. And then we'll tell them again when we're done. So we can start with you, Nakia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nakia Monet. I actually have my own podcast called the Muzzle is Off Podcast. And that pretty much is what I do as far as social media is concerned. I discuss a lot of topics. We discuss a wide range of things. And then I'll also do like an after dark type podcast where I talk everything sex, love, lies, lust. I'm also a published author. I'm also one who ghostwrites. I am also one whom has, a regular 9 to 5 job as well. And some of the things I love to do, honestly, is cook. Cooking relaxes me, so I like cooking. And I am a history buff, so I love history. So I like this topic because this is something that I have spoken about. And I'm happy that we are going to really take a deeper dive into um, sex and slavery, basically.
Omar, you want to go? You muted.
Okay, sure. My name is Omar Lyles. I'm the founder and CEO of Agape Love Network, which is a Black Christian relationship social group where we discuss about learning to lead with love, learning to deal with things that are difficult and uncomfortable in relationships. I am also an author, certified dementia practitioner, life and mental health coach, and I'm also an author at the same time. And I'm just glad to actually be here on this live to dive deep into this discussion.
Cool. My name is Yaya Abala. People call me WAP. Adama knows me as WAP. We've been friends for a good while. I am not as accomplished as the other two guests. I am an IT professional. Been doing that for about 8 years now. Father of two boys. So anytime Adama asked me to be on this show to talk about sexual relations or sexual topics concerning Black men, I'm all for it because these are things that I'm having to discuss with my older son who's 19 and my youngest son who just turned 12, who I will be having these discussions with soon. Um, it's always good to be here, get these topics, get these different views and different different opinions about things, different facts. So I'm always glad to be here. Um, I'm on social media. Again, I'm an IT professional. I'm not, you know, a published author or anything like that. So, me sharing my social media thing is not a big deal. So, but I do appreciate you having me here, man. Thank you.
It's all good, brother. I appreciate all of y'all being a part of the show.
Anytime,
Thanks
man.
again for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know y'all can be doing a lot of things, but y'all decided to be on here tonight. So as y'all heard during the introduction, the topic for tonight is sex slavery. I've done other shows where we talked about peer pressure. We've talked about pornography. We've talked about the music and the movies that we watch and how those things have had an effect and had an impact on the way that Black men view sex, how we view women, how we view relationships, and more importantly, how we view ourselves. The one topic that I have never talked about is how our history affects us, how the things that we've been through as a people, we've been through as I could say as a nation of Black people affect Black men. It definitely affects Black women, of course, but we're talking about how it affects Black men in the way we view sex. So for tonight, this is the first show that I'm having in February. So the question that I want to pose to you guys, it definitely is about slavery. And I want to get your opinion on how do you think slavery, or how do you feel slavery destroyed relationships when it comes to Black women and Black men and families and children?
I mean, from my knowledge and from, different things that I've read and heard about and different people I've heard speak, it seemed like during slavery, Black families were tighter. You know what I mean? Because we only had each other to lean on. We couldn't really, like we couldn't really have discussions with friends too much or anything. Like it wasn't like it is now. Like I can't drive to your house and talk to you about this girl that I'm messing with or anything like that. Like I think it was more family oriented because everybody was trying to look out for each other from, being whipped and being taken advantage of and hurt and everything like that. So I'm not sure if slavery per se like destroyed families, or you know what I mean? Like I mean I'm not 100% sure, but I don't, like, from everything that I've read and talked to people about it, I don't think it destroyed families. I mean, of course it wasn't. It was traumatizing, and it there was things that happened, with young girls being sent into the house and they're getting raped by the people in the house and everything like that. Like that's ridiculous and crazy. Husbands being dragged out, and I mean, well, I guess I'm contradicting myself now. Yeah, it's definitely a lot. I don't really know how it does transition into today. Can't really, like, I'm having a hard time like finding the words to how it transitions, but it's definitely a lot. It's definitely some things that like some things that are like in our mindsets from then to now, and it's a lot. I'll let somebody else speak, but
I think one of the ways in which we could understand how slavery destroyed Black families is what came out of slavery, right? Like what came out of slavery was the fact that the Black man needed to leave the home, right? In order for the woman to receive any form of assistance from the government to receive help, right?
right.
The Black man was not allowed to be in the house. The Black man was not allowed to raise his own children. The Black man was not even allowed, even with the ability to work, to stay in a house and provide, because the government basically said that for as long as you have this man in the household, we will not help you, right? Then on top of that, and that was even going down to the receipt of public housing, right? In order for a family to be in public housing, that man could not be in the household, which is why you have a lot of people that grew up in public housing and they say, well, my dad, he came by to visit, but he couldn't stay with us, right? Then on top of that, you have how slavery played a major role in even the emasculation of the Black man, right? To the point where Black men were castrated in front of their wives, because the truth of the matter is that from slavery, Black people were not even allowed to get married. You weren't allowed to necessarily have a legal spouse, which is the reason why the women could just be sold to anybody, because although they recognize each other as this is my spouse, but legally there was nothing legally binding to say that that was actually your wife and anything like that. So, and just think about it, back in the slavery, like my family has literally traced our history going back to slavery, right? If you've ever looked at those slave documents and seen how they literally have the slaves listed out by name, and the characteristics of the actual slave, and whom they in which belong to, right? A lot of those documents are so degrading, they're so dehumanizing, and but that was how we were viewed as a people as a whole, right? We were viewed as people that were truly just less than. So imagine having that level of a viewpoint and then trying to build a family around that viewpoint of being less than, of being unworthy, right? So when you think of slavery as a whole institution of what this country was built on, destroyed Black families as a whole, right? Like if you really look at it in a holistic standpoint, not an individual standpoint, but in a holistic standpoint, and ruin Black families as a whole. What Black families tried to do post-slavery is rebuild the relationship and how we relate to each other. And it was successful in some. Why? Because at the end of the day, a lot of us clung to even a religion that wasn't even our own, right? But we don't like to talk about that part, right? Because everyone, loves to view Christianity as this great thing, but really and truly, it really wasn't, not at its core, and not at its essence that came out of slavery, right? So when we look at what slavery did to the Black family, slavery split us up. Slavery taught us some very harsh realities as it pertains to how we view each other, how we speak to each other, how we dehumanize each other, how we don't necessarily respect the Black man as a whole. And now some of the Black men don't necessarily respect the Black woman as a whole. How children had to grow up into broken homes where they didn't know their father, or the fact that maybe their mother was raped multiple times and they could hear the mothers cry, right? So when you think of slavery as a whole and what it destroyed the dynamic of what we were accustomed to in Africa, right? Yes, we saw different things in Africa. Yes, we saw fighting in Africa. Yes, we saw war in Africa. But one of the things that was very prominent in Africa was family. And we literally had that ripped apart from us as a whole, to the point where slavery took away our identity of self. And we no longer had an identity, and we had to take on other identities. And I'll leave it right there and let Omar go.
You're on mute, Omar.
I keep leaving that mute one. I'm the mute king.
I think you were so caught up in what Nakia was saying, you just started talking.
Yeah. So, I mean, how it actually affects us today. I would say it can it affects economically.
Well, let me interrupt you real quick.
Oh yeah, sure.
How does slavery destroy relationships?
Oh, relationships. Okay. You know what? The families, in terms of relationships and how we interact with one another, and how families are able to weren't able to legally marry back then. So this is one thing that I agree with her on, and how families are not able to build relationships like they once did back then, because during that time, before pre-slavery, families were a unit, but families were actually broken up and split apart. Families were sold off to various parts around the world, even here in the United States itself. And so when you have children who don't have a father in the presence, that right there leaves them to a point to where they have no direction in their life. Now, the same thing could even happen today. In today's society, a lot of black men uh, are not even around uh, their own children today, and not even involved with the children that they've actually bear with the mother of their child at the same time. So it affects us in those terms as well. However, on the other end, we do have families that have very good, great, wholesome families, but there is a lot of trauma that have came out of it at the same time.
Okay. So yeah, of course, y'all make some great points. Men being stripped away from wives, children being stripped away from children, mothers being stripped away from their children and their husbands. Of course, that destroyed relationships. And as Nakia was saying, if you do your research in Africa, like family is the central part of the existence. Family and community. That's what we build on. That's how we function. That's what gives us strength, especially in Africa. Even now to this day, family is of the utmost importance. So to come into slavery and have those things separated and broken apart and destroyed, definitely has some traumatic impact. I've read and I've researched. I can't remember the doctor's name, but she wrote a book called Post Traumatic Slave. I think slave syndrome. I could be messing up the name, but it was just a play off of PTSD and how that affects individuals and how slavery affected an entire culture of people. But now there's a lot of people that would say that slavery was so long ago, so many centuries ago. How can it still have an effect on black people, black men today? Would you disagree, or would you agree that even though it was centuries ago, that it can still have some effect on what's going on with black men, the way we view women, the way we view sex and relationships, and even the way we view ourselves today in 2022?
Yeah, I say yeah, definitely yeah. I mean, just looking at everything that's in the media, everything that's broadcast, the way our kids are taught, our neighborhoods, not just with most of us probably, well, I mean, I grew up without my dad being in the house. He went around, he had more kids numerous times. So being raised by my grandma and my mom, I had a level of respect for black women. I didn't really know, how a black man was supposed to act. I mean, you have your uncles, you have your friends, you have your cousins, and everybody, has their way that they do things, but you don't have like your dad to show you, hey, son, this is what dad did. This is how you do it. This is what makes you a man. And it's funny because I have two sons, like I mentioned earlier. That's what I'm doing with my sons. So I had to learn how to be a black man and to teach these two black boys so that they can be black men. Um, I had to tell them about, the things that they see on TV, it looks good, it sounds good and everything like that, but it's terrible. It's wrong. Girls over sexualizing themselves, especially with social media, these girls on Instagram and everything like that. And these girls wearing all this makeup because they feeling like they're not pretty. I'm hearing girls all the time saying, oh, I don't like taking pictures. And it's the self-esteem is so low in a lot of black women. It's alarming to me because I don't, I don't, it's not like I'm out having like census with groups of black women, but almost every other black woman I talk to, oh, I don't like taking pictures. Well, why not? Oh, I don't like doing this. Well, why not? But I see all these women with these different surgeries. They want to change their body. Who are you changing your body for? This is not even something that most men are attracted to. So why are you doing this to yourself? Like, you're saying you want to look better for yourself, and I understand that. But if your goal is to find a husband and you're doing all these dangerous things to your body, your husband probably may not even be attracted to this. So what do you do then? A lot of women feel like they have to do that because of what's broadcast in these videos and these TV shows and online. And they see these girls with these fake balloon behinds and fake balloon breasts and these different things that they're doing to themselves. And they think, oh, well, it's on social media. Everybody sees that. Everybody's saying that they like it. So I got to do it too in order to attract a husband. That's the furthest thing from the truth in the world. Every male friend that I have is not attracted to that kind of stuff. And I have several male friends. Now, I'm not saying there's not some men that are attracted to it, and to each their own, but mostly it's the self-esteem thing is just, it's ridiculous. And the way that it's broadcast and spread through the news, it's crazy how they'll spread black men degrading women in songs and TV shows and everything like that, but they won't spread shows like the Cosby Show was good for a little while and then it got cut off. And you know what I mean? Like shows like that, Family Matters, good wholesome family shows, things that, you know what I mean? Like these are shows when we were growing up we liked. You don't see anything close to that now. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, family shows, family chord shows. You don't see any of that now. My sons have no idea what those shows are unless they watch them on YouTube or Hulu or something. None of that's on cable TV anymore. Now it's Powers and all this stuff that's glorifying stupid stuff. Honestly, disrespecting women, selling drugs, doing a bunch of illegal stuff just so you can make some money. And I've had discussions with my oldest son, go through the years all the time. Like, dude, you like these rappers and everything like that. You need to understand a lot of that is fake and it's lies. Well, Dad, why is it fake? Why are they lying? Because they're trying to make money because it sells. Well, why does it sell? And it's honestly like, son, I don't, it's people are just mentally brainwashed to think that, this stupidity is a good thing. So they buy it, they blast it in cars, and, they teach it to their kids, which is the craziest thing in the world to me. It's definitely just is just generational self-hate, generational craziness. And it's amazing. Like my youngest son mom was trying to teach my son, his birthday was February 1st. She says, hey son, let me take a picture for you for your birthday. He smiles. She's like instructing him how to smile. And I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you trying to instruct him how to smile? She's like, oh, don't smile so hard. Open your eyes more. Don't show so much teeth. And I'm like, what are you doing? How are you trying to tell him how to smile? Let him smile the way he wants to smile. Don't make him feel self-conscious about a smile. That's ridiculous.
Let me jump and ask you a quick question.
Go ahead.
So, do you feel like our history as Black people, when it comes to slavery, had an impact on some of that stuff that you're talking about, like the self-esteem and things of that nature?
Most definitely. We've been taught since like during and since slavery to hate ourselves. That we're the bad side. We're the worst of people. We're bad. We're ugly. We're this. We're that. It's the same thing with the I don't know if you guys know or remember the Doll Baby study, where they went in with a bunch of little girls. They showed them the black doll baby. Black doll baby is ugly. They don't want the black doll baby. Then they showed them the white doll baby. Oh, white doll baby is cute. White doll baby is that these kids were like 4.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would a 4-year-old No 4-year-old should not like a doll baby that looks like them for a white doll baby. And then you see it in older women even today. The things that they do to their bodies, all of these people getting all these surgeries. Little Kim, for example, because she always got cheated on with a light skinned girl, so she feels like she has to get all these surgeries to look light skinned. That's terrible. That's
No.
terrible.
Okay. No, I definitely am hearing you, brother. Man, Lakia, what do you think? What do you think of about people that say that slavery was so long ago, centuries ago, that it shouldn't have such an impact on the way that we behave, the way we think now in 2022?
I would say that, I mean, it's part true and part not, right? At the end of the day, people do not understand the psychological effect of trauma. And when you don't understand the psychological effect of trauma, you won't begin to understand how it can affect generations. Now, slavery might have been, an extremely long time ago, but that was slavery. But there is still post-traumatic effects of slavery that took place after slavery. Slavery technically still is not even over. You know what I'm saying? It's just been institutionalized. It's been systematized. So therefore, how can we say something should not still have an effect on us today when we still live it today? We still do not have equal rights. We still do not have equal pay. We still have to fight in order to even be recognized and to be respected. We still have to work 100 times harder than others when it comes down to business. We still have to answer questions as it pertains to our personalities, when we're on the job, right? So we can't say that there is no effect of slavery when we are faced with it every single day of our lives. We are faced with this. And some people's only remedy is, well, you should just become your own boss. Everybody's not made to be an entrepreneur. So some of us have to work within the corporate structure in order to make a living, right? And that's the problem with us today. A lot of times we just think that, oh, well, you should just do this in order to remedy that. And at the end of the day, there is no real remedy for it outside of people beginning to change the treatment in which we are treated. There needs to be a psychological review, especially as it pertains to what goes on even in the corporate structure in corporate America, because it is very racist. And these are the things that a lot of people don't like to talk about. There are things that happen within the corporate structure that are embedded within the actual build of a corporate structure. So we can't say that slavery does not exist today when at the end of the day, look at how we are depicted, even in sports, right? When you think of sports and you think of even basketball, look at the draft.
Yeah.
The entire draft, how the draft works, how everything works within, it's like you're literally picking from a pool of people, which is the same thing that was done during slavery, right? They had to pick from a pool and pick who's stronger, who could run the fastest, who do they think could lift this? Who do they think could work the fields better? Who do they think could be a better fit for in the house? A lot of the stuff that we go through today is the same thing that we went through during slavery. It just looks different. It appears different. And that's the problem. We don't understand how to recognize anything because we're allowed a seat at a table. So therefore, I can't recognize what this seat is. I'm allowed a seat at a table because there had to be laws to put in place in order to get me to the table. And then those laws every single year are coming up to say whether or not we absolutely need these laws in order for me to be viewed as a human being, one whom is able. So I say to anyone that says, and this is Nakia speaking, this is not the opinion of other people, but this is me. I say to anyone that says that slavery was just so long ago, we just need to get over it. We need to act like it should not affect us today. It does. And you're an idiot to say anything different. Period. You're uneducated. You're an idiot. You do not fully comprehend, nor do you fully understand the magnitude of what actually goes on in this world. If you really think that you have the power, the truth of the matter is slavery was all about power, which is why racism is about power. It is about the power to control. It is about the power to manipulate. It is about the power to deceive. It is about the power literally to have us be at the whim of other people, right? So therefore, we can actually see this, that it just played out as of February the 1st. Who got suspended off of The View for making one statement as opposed to their counterpart that made numerous
Exactly.
derogatory, disgusting statements against
Exactly.
I don't know how many people, not just Black people, Chinese people, and anyone else. She never got censored. She never got suspended. She never got reprimanded publicly by ABC. No one said anything to her. But
Exactly.
because a Black woman, Whoopi Goldberg, who makes a statement that technically is true, while we understand what Hitler's terminology was, but we understand also race. What the hell is race? You know? So she makes a statement based on the simple definition of race that is given by this country and their Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And all of a sudden she gets censored and she needs 2 weeks off to decide for her to think about what she said. Who the hell are you to tell me what I need to think about what I'm saying when you've never done this to any other person that has made statements? So you can't tell me. It is unfathomable for anyone to literally sit up here and tell me slavery does not still currently exist today, that the effects of it does not exist today. It's just masked. And until we get down to the root of this thing, because it is masked, because we think that because I got a seat at the table, I'm allowed to do this and I'm allowed to do that. You're allowed to because the law was here, not because they view you as a human being.
Right.
Period.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you said a lot of gems in there. A lot was going on there. So it does affect a lot of African Americans today. Education wise, let's just say that those who had enslaved, our ancestors have a 200 to 300 year lead over us, economic wise. And education wise to a certain extent. And so then people weren't even able to get the education that we have actually today. And so I remember there were times when I used to talk to a lot of people who grew up during like the 40s and 50s. I worked with a lot of senior citizens. However, they would talk about many of them didn't know anything about like financial aid or trying to get scholarships or grants in order to get education, and they were giving it to all the white people. If you were able to move into certain neighborhoods, you couldn't move in them because they were redlining the areas and they were pushing them back into the ghetto areas.
Still
And
don't
so these are some of the situations that that we have fell inside. And so it impacts us tremendously, especially with that 200 leap year over us at the same time. And so we have a lot of ways to go just to reach to that actual level to where we can be economically and fiscally free to operate in this society. And so we have to think about what we're going to do, even collectively, as Black Americans here in the U.S. I would say globally, because actually slavery was actually a global issue, because there were people who were reaching into the bank. They were reaching into the bank when they figured out that, well, hey, we can maneuver and take these slaves to Europe and have them on the Caribbean islands and shift them all around the United States and all around the world. And so, but focusing on who actually it affects us in a terrible way. But Europeans itself, they pretty much have the upper hand economically, and so it affects us financially today because we're not able to financially sustain ourselves.
If I may, I think that what we also have to begin to understand is that even post-slavery, when Black people said, okay, when we were segregated, we're going to build up even our own neighborhoods. We're going to create for ourselves. This is how we are going to live. And even in that instance, our businesses were burnt down. This goes before the whole Black Wall Street, right? This goes before Black Wall Street. You know what I'm saying? Our stuff was literally stripped away from us, taken from us, and we do not fathom that this is yet and still what's happening today.
Yep.
Okay. Then on top of that, we have been taught in this crabs in a barrel type mentality, to where even within our own self and within our own structure, we then tear down each other. Why? Because it's psychological. This is something that we've been taught. And we've been taught this way of thinking and this way of being over and over again. And what happens is that when this keeps on happening, this is the reason why we yet and still have to have this level of conversation, because we're not getting any further than the conversation. All of this sounds great and it sounds really good, right? But until we as a people begin to realize that the only way how we're going to come up out of this is if we really truly do band together, like every other, technically, they say minority, but majority community does. Because at the end of the day, why is it that a lot of the Jewish people can take over Brooklyn, a whole area, have buildings, have businesses? You even have Muslims, they do the same thing. The only people that seem to not be able to fathom how to do this is Black people, because I don't want you having more than me. I don't want you. And that is the same mentality that took place during slavery. When slave masters said, no, they can't rise up. No, you can't learn. No, you can't read. Why? It was a way in order to keep you dumbed down in under a system that was meant to hold you down. So now we take that same type of thinking and that same type of mentality, and then we spew it out here when, you know, a Black-owned business pops up. I'm not paying that much money for this. I'm not supporting. I could go to Target and pay $20 and you're trying to charge me $50. Well, Target has a whole freaking distribution warehouse center in the freaking Philippines. This is being manufactured right here. So why do you think it costs more money? Because I don't have the big machine behind me. I'm doing it myself, right? And it's the same type of thing. It's the same type of mentality. That's why when people say slavery was so long ago, well, you still think like a slave. So until you get out of that slave mentality, therefore we're always going to be fighting the same thing. Do you really, if the natives or whatever, if the natives were able to go before Congress and say, y'all gonna pay us for all the land you stole, we still sitting here talking about we want our 40 acres and a mule, because we have yet to figure out that if we band together and go to Congress together and say, yo, you owe us. You actually wrote this into your whole law, and we still haven't received what you said you would pay. But we so busy arguing over stupid stuff that we can't even get no real stuff done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me. Now, I feel. I was forming. I'm glad that we was talking about this stuff, because what I really wanted to do was to get you guys' perspective on slavery as a whole and how it impacts us as a whole. And everything that you guys said, you know, it's full of nuggets, full of facts and reality. But what I wanted to do now is focus on sex in slavery and how it impacts Black men now. And something that Nakia said, you know, sparked a question or you know, a thought in my mind when she was speaking about, you know, how athletes are drafted. You know, you measure how fast they can run, how high they can jump, how strong they are. I've read in many books when it comes to about slavery and how some slaves were actually picked and bought. Some male slaves were simply bought based on the size of their genitals, how big their penis was, because the thought was, you know, the bigger the penis, the more slaves he can impregnate. I also read about at the age of 15, young boys started to be tested on how many women they could pregnate
Mhm,
because of course they had to keep the business going with
mhm,
producing slave babies. And if it was shown or proven that a boy couldn't impregnate as many women, could not meet the quota, he was either castrated or he was just cruelly punished, made to work in the field. There was also a quota that they had to meet. So the quota that I read was you had to, within a 5-year period of time, you had to impregnate at least 12 slave women. Once again, if you didn't reach the
mhm,
quota, you could face castration,
mhm,
punishment, hard work in the field, or be sold.
mhm,
Now, when we think of those things and how men were measured by the size of their penis, and how some of them received like some favorable treatment if they was able to impregnate a lot of slave women. What parallels do you see in that behavior, that conditioning, that programming, and what's going on in today's time? Is there any parallels? Do you see any parallels? Can you see how that
Listen,
way
yeah,
of conditioning and being treated
yeah,
translates today?
yeah.
definitely.
Well, first of all, before I say anything, I want to put out a disclaimer. All right, and that disclaimer is to not take away social responsibility for a person in about who he is. Responsibility, a man's responsibility in terms of him showing respect for women, for himself, and not sleeping around in that situation. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But there is some sort of parallel in the behavior and how a man acts in terms of how he uh, looks at women in terms of looking at them as sex objects and having more than one. So to practice, for example, like the practice of polygamy and having more than one, impregnating more than one woman at the same time, and looking at them as more as a sex object or just something to actually do as they had done back then, because back then they were actually forcing them to do it, as you were
Mhm.
talking about with the quota. And a lot of times I feel bad even for the women because they took the harsher pain to actually go through that, because they're the ones who had the ones who were the ones who actually give birth, not the men. So them, it was more like, okay, wow, I can have pregnant with this lady and this lady and this lady, but she had to bear the brunt of it because she was the one who actually had to give birth. And what if the child had came out as disabled, or if the child was dysfunctional or anything of that particular? Them kids were actually discarded, or perhaps killed during that time. And so that's the real issues that happened back then. But today, it does affect in many ways in how a man acts, behaves in society at the same time. But not to take away him being responsibility for his own actions.
I agree with Omar as far as what he said about responsibility. That's probably one of the biggest things that may not be taught. Um, like you have to worry about the consequences of your actions. You have to worry about what you're doing, what you're doing could cause. You having a kid, you out here sleeping with all these women, you have no intention of being with any of them. These kids end up out here raising themselves. So the cycle continues. Do better. Like and like there's a mentality of, like we were saying earlier, the more women you sleep with, the more manly you are. That's stupid. That doesn't, like, sleeping with a woman doesn't make you a man, doesn't make you more of a man or less of a man. Sleeping with more women doesn't make you more of a man or less of a man. Taking care of your responsibilities makes you a man. I try to teach this to my sons all the time and to any dude that's listening. Take care of your responsibilities. You got kids, take care of your kids. You can't take care of your kids, stop having kids. They have condoms. I don't care about all this, oh, condoms ain't comfortable, blah, blah, blah. Nobody trying to hear that. After use the right side of your brain too. We got to do better as a people, period. We also got to call each other out on it. Like, dude, what are you doing? Why you got all these baby moms and you sleep like you have no intention of being with any of these chicks? What's your point? What are you doing this for? You know what I mean? What you were saying earlier is like the things from slavery that transfers over with sex. Growing up, I've been a tall kid with big feet. We all know the stereotype. Oh, he got big feet. You know what that means. I've heard that from all kinds. You know what I mean? Like I've heard that from different races. I've heard that from Black women. I've heard that from Latino women, Asian. Like I've heard it from different women. Oh, he got big feet. Oh, he tall. You know what I mean? So that's programming that's transferred over. Women see that you're tall. Women see that you have big feet, so they think, "Oh, you got a big penis. You know what you're doing." You look like, man, I'm 15, 16. I know I'm tall, so I look a little older, but I don't know the first thing about sex.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's crazy how some of the crazy things from slavery have transferred over, but there's definitely more than a few. Definitely more than a few.
I think that so I think there's two parts to this, right? The first part of it is I think we need to understand that what grew out of slavery was a complete disdain for the Black man and the size of his penis. That came out of slavery, right? When you think of the image, and I forget what this uh who's in the statue, but who is it, David or somebody, whatever, they got it at the Museum of Natural History, one of them damn museums over there in the city.
Mhm.
And he's like naked or whatever, and one of the reasons why they did that whole statue and he's naked, it's to show off his smaller penis, to basically say that what you would want, what's natural, is a man with a smaller penis. What's unnatural is a man with a bigger penis, right? So what grew out of slavery for the Black man was this viewpoint of the Black man as being this unnatural, beastly creature, not a man, creature.
Mm-hmm.
But what is a man is this statue of a person that's a little muscular with a small penis, right? So the psychological effect of slavery that took place as far as Black men, if we really think about it, someone brought up Birth of a Nation, right? So I took Afro-American Lit. One of the films we had to watch was Birth of a Nation. One of the things that, and we also had to watch Slavery in the Making of America, right? So when you watch stuff like that, and what begins to happen is you begin to see exactly how was the Black man viewed sexually back then. The Black man was viewed as a brute, as someone that was subpar, as someone that was larger than life, as someone that wasn't even worthy of love, because all he wanted to do was go after and rape our women and take over them and this, that, and the third, right? Which is part of the reason why, you know, there was such a big issue with interracial relationships, interracial marriage, and also the extra stuff, right? Because the viewpoint of the Black man was as someone whom was just there to rape and control and honestly treat a woman as if she was completely less than. Then what began to happen as far as in the Black family structure is concerned, when it came to being, you know, overly sexualized, that happened way after slavery, when, you know, you had all of this like, I want to call it like a sexual type revolution and stuff, where now we begin to promote and we begin to encourage, and these things become embedded in us culturally. When we became over sexualized culturally, that is when we began to discuss oh, let me see his shoe size, because if he is size 12, then I know he got to have a big peen and blah 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 blah. And then the flip side of it is that then men began to look at women a little differently and begin to say, oh, well, I know if I could see a camel print, then I know her puss got to be big and it must be juicy and this, that, and the third. That happened way after slavery. But if you really want to get down to what actually happened that was unhealthy as far as slavery and as far as the Black man is concerned, number one, the Black man was not viewed as attractive. The Black man was viewed as a beast. He was viewed as an animal. He was viewed as somebody that was literally just going to rape and manipulate and control the white woman that came out of slavery. And then when you think about it, that as if the Black man had an unhealthy sexual appetite, one who needed to be controlled, which is the reason why they had camps for Black men in order to break them. They called them bucking camps, where they would have to break them and dehumanize them, actually rape the Black man. They sodomized the Black man in front of the Black woman, in front of the family. I don't think we fully understand like the magnitude. And a lot of these camps were not in the US. They would take them, ship them over into like the West Indies. And that was where a lot of these camps were at, where the Black man was literally raped. And a lot of people would like to wonder why. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of homosexuality that came out of slavery as well, but we don't want to talk about what really came out of slavery, because these are the things that were traumatic to the Black man. And we see this trauma played over and over again, even in today. And we don't want to address the trauma that is actually happening today. And a lot of that trauma has to do with the fact that the Black man was so dehumanized, so emasculated, so downtrodden, to the point where it just began to just play over and over and over again. And yes, this didn't happen to everybody. Yes, are there definitely some Black men that, you know what I'm saying, have learned how to, basically heal and control the outcomes for their own life? Absolutely. But we cannot ignore that there were things that happened sexually to the Black man and also sexually to the Black woman that was extremely traumatic, that literally would cause us to view ourselves as less than even human beings, to the point where here we are today, overly sexualized. And a lot of that is it's like it's a byproduct of what actually happened. So now we have this culture now where we're embracing everything. I'm big breasts. I'm embracing a big booty. I'm embracing a big dick. I'm embracing a small one. We're embracing all these different things, and now it's become this situation where it's overdone. And now we're overly sexualized. And now it's like, how do we now gain back control over that narrative of who we really are as a people? And that's where we need to be. We need to regain the narrative of who we really are. Because at the end of the day, sex is great. Sex is wonderful, and it should be experienced and expressed. Everyone should really feel the wonderfulness of it. But what happens is that when you have some of these uncontrolled ideologies in the mind, a lot of this stuff is mind control. And then now you get rapists and you get child molesters and you get pedophiles and all this other extra stuff. But a lot of that has that psychological effect that literally took place over time. And that's where I'm at with it. A lot of this stuff took place over time. I'm all for accountability. I'm definitely all for responsibility, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for what we know, and we are charged to do better with everything that we know. But there are instances where we are just willfully ignorant, and that's where I'm at. I want to deal with the willful ignorance of a people as a whole, so that we can no longer live in that level of darkness, because that's what all this is. A lot of this is a level of darkness. And I kid you not, I'm single in this good dating world, and it sucks. I put a post up about it today. I said it sucks. Y'all need to pray for all of us single people, men and women, because I know y'all get it too, being single men. But I can only speak for the women aspect of it, because I'm not a man. If any of y'all single, y'all can speak for y'all side of it. But what I will say is that one of the things that is happening today, in today's time, is that you have a lot of men that have not realized that one of the best things that you could probably do is capture a person with your intellect and with your mind. But a lot of men don't know how to do that today. Some of these single men, and they just want to lead with sex. Everything is led with sex. Everything is, oh, I got a big so-and-so. Oh, I got this. Oh, I got this. Oh, I know how to do this. And it's all this stuff that and I sit here as a single woman, one who actually is intelligent, and saying, is this all you want to talk about? Is this where we're at today as a people, as a whole, in a society, where the only thing you want to talk about is how big you are and whatever else that comes thereafter? That's who we are.
Let me ask a quick question, since you said that. Where do y'all think that comes from? Because as far as black men, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you heard differently, but and I'm talking about worldwide over different cultures. Black men are really not recognized for their intelligence, not always recognized for our leadership, not necessarily recognized for who we are as men. But I've often heard and seen black men being recognized for their sexual prowess, for the ability to perform in the bedroom. And when the kid said that, I guess what she her experience is men, especially black men, leading with that. How did that become a thing? Where do you think that originated from, or why does it continue to go on now? And then we can go on to how to heal this trauma that we've been talking about. But I want to hear your thoughts on that.
For me, it was just stupidity. Like you grow up and you see it, you hear, older cousins and uncles talking about it. So you think that's the way you're supposed to be. Then you grow, your common sense kicks in, you realize this is stupid. But you have a cousin who continues to think that's the way it's supposed to be. So he tells his friends, and then it's just stupidity that spreads, and everybody just blind leading the blind, basically. It is, I mean, to each his own. Do what you do. Be responsible, please. But it's the stupidest thing in the world to me. Like this body count thing, this bragging about it, like just sitting there. Like I have a friend who, we have conversations, and when they get into talking about who they're sleeping with, and they calling this girl and they gonna call that girl, they gonna do this and they gonna do that. And in my head, I'm like I had to tell him a couple times, like, dude, you sound stupid. What you mean? What you mean? I'm out here getting these girls. You sound stupid. How old are you? Like, what's wrong? You don't have nothing else to do? You don't have nothing else going on in your life? But I think it comes mostly from black men not knowing who they are. Black men not understanding who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Not having anything else to do, like no education, no self-worth in themselves. So they're out here treating everybody else like they're worthless. Like, dude, you got to do better. You can't want better and not do better. So
and that's the one thing we often hang our hats on, especially when we don't have find our purpose, or when we don't have any set goals.
Right.
You can always hang your hat on your ability to have sex.
Right.
That's something everyone can achieve.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that, Omar? If you want to,
yeah, I got it. Yeah, you know what? This is the problem, is that when you have a lack of people who are mentoring young men, the generations previously, who are not instilling in the lives of the generation that's coming up, to teach them about self-control, to teach them and educate them on how to treat other women in their personal lives. Because if you have a mother, you wouldn't want to not disrespect the person that you are seeking a relationship with, or anybody in particular, or any lady in particular. So when you have a lack of that, it becomes a problem. And so, because some people, they feel that it is okay to sleep around when we have HIV/AIDS, when we have so many venereal diseases that's going on, and syphilis and things of that particular nature, and just sleeping around. And so that becomes a psychological issue, a mental issue as well. Um, when you have the inability to use your head, to use your mind, and make some sense out of things, because life is very fragile. You never know whether you're going to live today or tomorrow. And so, is this the life that you actually want to live? And so, if you want to leave a legacy, don't leave a legacy that you have slept with more than one woman, or you have 3 and 4 baby mothers in your obituary, and saying in your obituary you're gonna have he bore this person and this person and this person, and you'll see it. So this life that is lived is not to be played with. And so it is very unfair to the next generation that's coming up, because we're supposed to be the ones that's supposed to actually set an example. Um, and so I totally uh, don't blame it on everybody, but at the same time, it is a individual responsibility that a person has to have for his own self, and having that in mind is to be a better person in life.
Well, I can't answer that. I was waiting for the men to answer it. I'm a woman, so I'm trying to figure this out myself.
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. It's all right.
I know when to bow out. I am not a man.
But I definitely agree with what you guys saying, WAP and Omar. It's definitely a lot of conditioning. It's the way we programmed, is the way the lessons that we learn from young. That sex is like the top priority.
Right.
Sex, that's how we are taught to measure our manhood. A lot of ways, the amount of girls you get, or how good you are with sex. So it's so almost second nature to lead with that when you meet a woman. Because in your mind you think that's what it is.
You think that's an accomplishment, right?
Yeah. That's, and is that conditioning. And I just had a thought and it slipped my mind. But Omar, you had your what you about to say?
I was going to say that also. It's also influence. Is a big contributor as well. When you have other people that's around you saying that it's okay. When you look at, we watch movies, we watch films.
Right.
We have people around us every single day. You out here the conversations. Oh, I slept with 2 or 3 girlfriends and stuff like that. And like, wow, man, you slept with 3 girls? Yeah, we did it in the same night. I'm like, wow, man, it's like, really? That was back then. I'm not actually having no conversations like that. But yeah, it's the problem of a lot of influence. I think that that people have to become well disciplined, and when to stay out of those kinds of environments where you have people influencing you to do such and such and such.
Right.
And so that's probably one of the things too, is influence. And so we let so many things get to our ears that it's okay to do a lot of things that people are actually doing because individuals are actually influencing them.
I agree with that. Influence plays a big part in it, especially when you don't have somebody there to teach you better.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And again, like I was saying, like when you don't view the worth in yourself, again, you're not going to view the worth in other people. If you already have a low view of yourself, and then you sleep with a girl, and then another girl shows interest, and you say, oh, well, this sex thing, this must be who I am, not realizing, no, it's not. So, and then you're telling your friends, and they piping you up, they hyping you, your family, like your male family members. When you get private, you talking to your uncle, like, yeah, uncle, I slept with this girl. They piping you up. You know what I mean? So you think, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do. But at a certain age, you got to realize, like, this is not it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can blame it. You can blame it on your surroundings, and you can blame it on your influences, I think, to a point. Like at some point, the switch has to go off. It has to go off. Like, this is wrong. I'm hurting this person. This person keeps arguing with me. Why do they keep arguing with me? Why does this person keep arguing with me about me sleeping with another girl? Yeah, my friends are saying it's cool. Yeah, rap music is saying it's cool. Yeah, these movies are saying it's cool. But this person that I'm sleeping with is saying that it's not cool. This other person that I'm sleeping with is saying that it's not cool. These people are not happy with me sleeping with multiple people.
Mhm.
This is not right. This is wrong. Like, you people got to wake up, but then they want to keep doing it because they want to impress their friends. They want to
You
impress
know,
these males in their life. Go ahead.
what I think is even scarier is not only the fact that, you know, a lot of guys don't know their worth. I think a lot of guys are just measuring their worth by the wrong thing.
That too.
Mhm.
So
Very
it's
much.
not that they feel like they're unvaluable or they don't know who they are as a man, but they think that's the thing that makes them a man.
Right.
Like their
Right.
measuring scale is broken, or
Right.
they're just using something to measure their manhood that was never built or created to measure it to begin with.
Right.
So that's why a lot of them lead with that stuff. A lot of
Right.
them have that mind frame because, you know, I'm measuring in their minds. This is what makes me a man. This is what makes me, you know, this is what makes me popular. This is what makes me whatever the adjective might be. So they're measuring their worth by the wrong thing, and that's the scary part.
Listen, man.
I just think for some of them, it just works for them. Like at the end
That
of the
too.
day, there are just some women that's just going to sit up there and just going to allow you to lead that way.
Mhm.
I happen to be not her. Just putting that out there. I am not she. She is not me. I don't ascribe to that level of nonsense. So when people do it with me, it is an instant. I already know I can't talk to you. But I do believe that it's because it's nowadays is now it's become what is socially acceptable for certain behaviors. It's just not an acceptable behavior for me, right? And I think that's part of the issue. There are a lot of things that have nothing to do with slavery or anything like that. It has a lot to do with what has become socially acceptable, culturally acceptable. You know, with the transition of time, with the influence of music, right, and then also with the influence of friends and family. There are certain things that in a traditional household would not have been acceptable, but have now become acceptable in today's societal type households because of the transition of time. And I think that's a lot of our issues. Our issue has to do with how we are becoming over time. And times are definitely changing. Times are definitely different. And we are in a different time today to where people are a lot more freer today. People are a lot more open today. People are a lot more willing to experiment with various love styles, lifestyles, all the styles and stuff like that. And
A lot
we are
less
just,
privacy.
yeah, we are just different, you know. And we have become a generation where we are more or less sexually explorative, if I may say so. We are exploring a lot, and a lot of what we are exploring to our own detriment is not really good. It's not really beneficial, and I think that's the problem with relationships as a whole today, with how we are actually relating to each other. There's a question here.
Yeah, I see it. Let me ask this question. We're gonna address that question. So with all that we spoke about, the slavery, the changing of times, the influence of our environment, the trauma that has been passed down from generation to generations, this the sexual abuse, sexual trauma that we seem to be stuck in as men and as people. How do we start to address it? How do we start to fix it? Or can it be fixed? All right. Well, what's your suggestion? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it can be fixed. I think a good way to start, one, is we got to start holding ourselves accountable. And we got to start getting to these kids and teaching these kids, you know what I mean? Like, the things that you see broadcast, just because you see everybody doing something don't mean it's okay to do it.
Mhm.
Just because you see all these things, these people making money off of stupidity, doesn't mean go be stupid. It comes back to accountability. It comes back to just like being accountable for what you're doing. But a lot of them don't know that, so they have to be taught that. So it can be done. I think it can be done. I'm not saying it's an easy process. I'm not saying it's something that could be done overnight. It's definitely something that's going to take probably a generation or two, because these kids today are so stuck on what's going on today. Like, they don't know about the way we were raised. You know what I mean? Like, your son may know, my sons know, but his cousins whose dad ain't around don't know, or his friends whose mom wasn't the best mom or dad wasn't the best dad, you know, they don't know. The parenting is different from when we grew up. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of different things that are different. Yes, the households are in shambles a lot of places, and it's understandable, but like we definitely it can be done. We definitely got to talk to these kids. We got to teach these kids. We got to hold ourselves accountable. We got to hold our friends accountable that is doing this foolishness and teaching it to other kids, or doing this foolishness and they have kids and they're not talking to their kids. Accountability has to be held. These kids have to be taught better. It can be done. It's not an easy process. It's not a short process.
I think healing begins at the core of everything with acknowledgement of self, understanding self, knowing self, feeling valued of self, knowing your self-worth, um, placing value in the right place and not in the wrong places. And then I also think that after we acknowledge self and become comfortable with self and become sure of self, then we can deal with accountability to whom self, right? A lot of people have no idea who they are. They have no idea what they are worth. They have no idea, out. And the truth of the matter is, some people place their worth in their ability to make money. And that's not even where your worth resides, right? And I'm going to add in here Shanice's question, because it ties into all of this. A lot of the times and especially if we're really referring to Black men, when you have a breakdown of the family dynamic and you have a breakdown of the family structure, and even if the father is in the home, but the home life is still not healthy, then at the same time, we're still going to come to the same conclusion, right? Because you can have a two-parent household, and that household be extremely detrimental to the mental psyche of the child, male or female, that is living in the home, right? And when you have an unhealthy home structure, then you breed unhealthy children. And part of the issue is that we've had unhealthy home structures, and we have bred unhealthy children, and then those children then turn into becoming unhealthy adults, period. And until we begin to teach children from a young age in their developmental stages of self-worth, acknowledging self, who you are, being proud of self, and understanding that your worth is not in your ability to make money, but your worth is in your ability to just be you, right? And if we don't, if we stop with this entire mentality of what goes on in this house stays in this house, and not the lack of addressing issues, the lack of addressing concerns, the lack of addressing emotions, the lack of even allowing emotions, allowing children to feel how they feel, not be disrespectful, but allow them to feel. A lot of that, until we literally uproot a lot of things that we've just been taught that honestly is toxic and dysfunctional, we will continue in this cycle. So it begins with self, it begins with truth, it begins with actualization, then it goes into accountability, and then it goes into being honest about our family structures and our households. How safe was this environment that we created for our children to thrive and strive in? How conducive was the environment for their mental health? How conducive was the environment for their physical health? How conducive was the environment for their emotional and spiritual well-being? Until we really address those things, we're just going to repeat a whole cycle. And a lot of it comes from the fact that we don't like to deal with truth, and the fact that some of us have issues with being honest and saying that I'm a screwed up individual. I need help, and until I get the help, I'm gonna produce some more screwed up individuals and send them out into this world unprepared. And that's the one thing for me I don't like to see. I don't like to see children thrown out into a world unprepared, because at the end of the day, their foundation and structure at home was extremely poor. You know what I'm saying? And the truth of the matter is that in this, since we're talking about Black men, a lot of the times what happens is when you have a culture that says that it is okay for daddy to have multiple women, it is okay for daddy to not have any type of successful relationship, and this is what, now daddy has a daughter or daddy has a son, and this is what that daughter and this is what that son sees. What makes you, they're either going to accept that image or they're going to reject it. And that's the problem. The problem is that parents, I'm not a parent, but parents have not been able to master the image in which they portray to their children. And until you master that image and what that child sees, what they and that then turns into whom they actually can become, here we are, cycled away.
Okay. Just so you guys know, the question that Nakia was answering was from Shanisa. Says, do you think some of that stems from the absentee fathers in the household? In my experience, men who parents were married and fathers were present in a household marry and commit easier. I don't I wouldn't say that it stems from it, but everyone is different and everyone process their life experience different. So for some men or for some boys, it can stem from an absentee father. You know, there are boys that didn't have a father in the home that experienced abandonment issues or attachment issues, and was left with some type of void emotionally in their hearts or in their minds in their lives. So the way they try to fill that void is by sleeping with women. Because you know, a lot of men don't know how to. I shouldn't say a lot. I should say some men don't know how to heal in a proper way. So we often turn to sex as a way to cover up that pain. We turn to sex as a way to hide the shame and the guilt that we feel, being because our father wasn't there. And then, you know, other times because our father wasn't there, we turn to the wrong role models. We return to the guys that's on the block, that's influencing us to go ahead and sleep with however many amount of women. So we think that's the way to go, and because dad wasn't there to teach you, you know, the right direction. So I think I would say every man process that experience different. Some guys behavior stem from something totally different than an absentee father, but then it can impact the next man in that way. So that's my thought on that. So, I mean, so you guys can either address that question, Omar, or you can or we can talk about the healing the trauma.
I can just say just a little bit of that and swing into the healing. It varies, and it's basically on a case by case basis, because there are families. Well, I would say there are children who grew up in single parent household who came out just as fine, was able to live a productive life, and knew how to navigate through society and things of the nature. But not everybody. And then you have men who have had two parents in the household, who have not made life very easy for themselves. And so even though you may have two parents in a household, doesn't mean everything is peaches and creams behind closed doors, because there's a lot of abuse that can be going on inside of there as well. And you can experience sexual trauma even behind closed doors. where the father is molesting a child, or the mother is doing a lot of abusive things to children as well, or young men as well. And there can be a lot of sexual things going on as well. And so even though a couple can be in a two-parent household, it doesn't necessarily mean that life is going to be better for them, or that being in a committed relationship, uh, or that even just being just I would say um, knowing how to be in a committed relationship. To me, the power is basically in living by example. If you had two parents that showed the child how to be a good example, and teach them how to address certain things and how to live and act and behave a certain way and how to respect women, then you can say to yourself, okay, wow, this person really knows how to treat other people. So yes and no to that specific question. But as far as the healing is concerned, you have to start with self-care, looking for a support group, looking if we come together collectively and know how to conversate with one another, lift one another up through prayer and talking to one another about the traumas of our past, and allow God into our life, then healing can actually take place. And so, but healing will take time. Uh, Trauma in a person's life is not some, when it comes down to trauma, healing is not some overnight thing that a person will have. Sometimes it takes a long, long time for that person to actually recover from any kind of trauma. But collectively, uh, trauma has impacted the African American community so huge that it's hard for us to not forget about what happened to us in our past, what happened to our ancestors in the past, and how it affects us today.
Yeah, I mean, they're good stuff, and I agree with each and every one of you guys. It's so important to try to catch these young guys while they're still young. And I've always said, I always think like a boy is never too young to start teaching him the appropriate and right way to manage his sexuality, to manage his body, as long as it's age appropriate, of course.
Right.
Like it's important to get him involved in positive things, because like they always say, a idle mind is the devil's workshop. So if you don't have if you don't have him engaged and participating in something positive, something that's teaching him, leadership skills, or just a good character building,
Instilling values.
activities. Yeah, he's going to pick up the stuff that society is pushing out there. It's just natural. It happens to all of us, because society has a bigger voice. So we have to even try to be a bigger voice than what society is promoting with their teaching. And I'm of course I'm a therapist, so I'm definitely a supporter of therapy. So overcoming any type of sexual trauma, whether it's vicarious trauma from things that happened way back when to someone else, or if it's sexual trauma that happened to that individual. Therapy is always helpful when it comes to that. And I agree with you, Omar. Building your spirituality, relationship with God, prayer also helps too. I'm not the type of therapist that believe it's either therapy or spirituality. I think both is needed, and both are definitely helpful.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been on here for about an hour and a half now, and I've been asking all the questions. So before we even disconnect, is there anything in the conversation, in the discussion, that maybe triggered a question for y'all? I don't know, Nakia, you got 3 men on a panel. Maybe you had a question that you wanted to ask the guys. I don't know, or Omar, or even Watt. Any questions that y'all want to pose to the group?
I don't have any. Y'all answer my question.
Okay.
I don't have any questions, man.
Okay.
No, I
So
don't have anything, man.
before we disconnect, let me just say thank you one more time for being a part of this conversation. It was definitely enlightening. I knew you guys was going to come with some great insight on this topic, some great wisdom. So I appreciate y'all taking this time out of y'all busy evenings. And please share your social media, things that you got coming up. Once again, before we disconnect, so people, if they want to connect with you, they can. Whether they're watching the replay or if they're watching right now.
Well, I can be followed on my social media. Everything is under Nikia Monet, so I can be found by searching Nikia Monet. My podcast is The Muzzle Is Off podcast. I air every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And this month, I'm actually focused on Black entrepreneurs. So that's what I'm really focusing on this month. Just a lot of different Black people that are out here and doing very different things with their businesses. And I want to focus on a lot of, the ups and downs, the bumps and all that stuff. But that's what I'm focusing on this month, Black History Month. So I definitely can be found on all social media. I do have a book out. It is on Amazon. If you search Nikia Monet, you will find the book. It is called The Secret Wives, The Lies That Bind. So, and I'm actually working on another book right now. So a lot of things coming.
Okay. Yeah, definitely check out the podcast. I pop into a podcast when I catch it. She always have some spicy conversations going on. So if y'all get an opportunity, check it out. Omar?
You can check me out on Agape Love Network here on Facebook, Agape Love Network LLC. We're also on YouTube. We also utilize our podcast as well on Anchor.fm. I have also 3 new books out that I just put out. Actually, it's New Ways to Show Yourself Love in Christ. The second one is I'm co-author is Will You Still Love Me, and also Leading with Love Relationship Workbook, which you can actually get on Amazon as well. And that's pretty much it. Those are the platforms. We're also on Instagram. And just check us out. The website is www.agapelovenetwork.net, or you can look at my website, omarlyles.thelifecoach.net as well.
Okay. Omar, I didn't know you had that many books out, brother.
I got some more popping out.
Spitting them out, ain't you?
Okay. I got a lot of them coming out.
Man, good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate you, bro. Always a pleasure to have you on. Wow.
Man, I don't have no social media to share. I'm
Come
hardly
on, brother.
even on there.
You special. Don't just say you're an IT guy, man.
Listen, I'm an IT guy with 2 kids, and I'm focused on that, man. I don't really be on social media like that.
Because you're always in jail. That's why, brother.
Hey, man,
jail all the time.
That's because I'm trying to make people take accountability for their stupidity, but Facebook don't like that. So
yeah, but
they
definitely great dad too. Great father.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm not really on social media that much anyway. 1, because I'm always in jail. 2, because it's getting too wild for me. So I gotta take mental breaks, man. I gotta take mental breaks. But I did see Gail in the comments. I haven't seen Gail since I was like 14 or 15 on Grass Street. So I want to say hi to Gail Hines. How you doing? How you been? How's your family?
Okay.
But yeah, man, outside of that, if y'all see me out in the streets and you recognize me, say hi. I'll say hi back. But I'm not really on social media like that, man. So
all right, brother.
I appreciate you having me, man.
I appreciate it. This is the Sexual Miseducation of Black Men. I'm A.B. Bracewell. You can find me on YouTube at Sexual Miseducation of Black Men, or right here on Facebook, or on Instagram under the same name. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate everybody that had questions, comments, and joined in a discussion. Hope to see y'all next week. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.